from resources on unceded, unsurrendered territory, helping themselves with the blessing of the province of New Brunswick. And not only that, but hauling billions of dollars out of here to tax havens in the Bahamas. Now, two questions I have is, how are you going to increase taxes on this corporation or these corporations? And secondly, what are you going to do about the illegal deal that was made between New Brunswick and the Irvings, where they gave away access to land and resources that belong to Indigenous people?
Thank you for your question. I'm glad you came tonight. First of all, we are going to make the corporations pay more. We're taking their rate from 15 to 17%. They have to pay more. Secondly, we're closing those loopholes so that they can't take their money to tax havens. You make your money here, you pay here. That's the way it has to be. The other thing that we will do is we'll close those little sneaky tax evasion things like shares. Okay, so for CEOs, that will be shut down under an NDP government. Okay. As far as what you're talking about, that relates to the Irvings, okay? But the resources, that has to be dealt with under Brian DeLance's government. Unfortunately, deals were made. Does it make it right? Absolutely not.
They're a violation of international law because there was no consultation and there was no free, prior, and informed consent from our people.
And that will come up in the negotiations or in the conversations that Mr. Mulcair will have with the current government here. I can assure you that I will make sure that that comes up. I have stood beside you. I have stood beside many of the people here on a certain protest. I didn't get arrested though. But, you know, it's important, and it goes back to what the NDP are saying about natural resources. If you can't do it safely, if you can't protect my air, if you can't protect my water, then guess what? It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And what you're talking about international laws and treaties, that has got to be brought up. And I will make you a pledge tonight that I will personally talk to Tom Mulcair about that very subject.
Thank you for your question. This is a federal issue because it comes down to respect for treaty rights and for the rights of self-governance. And where treaty rights are not in place and land has not been ceded, like it is the case here in New Brunswick, then it's up to the federal government to insist and enforce the obligation of governments to fairly negotiate on a nation-to-nation basis the terms under which resources are to be extracted. And it just is that simple. What's happening here is completely illegal, not to mention unethical, and in the very worst interest of all of our First Nations communities here in this province, and of everyone other than the Irvings here in this province. We also do have a commitment to increase corporate taxes at the national level, and an equally strong commitment to close loopholes and tax havens so that our resources and the revenue that is generated from our resources stays in the province and that it is shared equitably on terms that are negotiated with our First Nations communities fairly, in good faith, and on a nation-to-nation basis.
When you talk about international law, I'm sure you're talking about the UN Convention on the Rights of Aboriginal Persons, and that's certainly a starting point for a Liberal government, is to make sure that we implement that convention that has not been implemented to fruition under the Conservative government. The other thing we need to do, and it's been pressed upon our team across the country for the last number of years, is get back to the honest conversation as equals with First Nations that was started through the Kelowna process, an 18-month dialogue that led to an historic investment that would see Aboriginals